A reading from Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 9. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up to a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could have bleached them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one was with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down from the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead.
People of God, will you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. This is the last weekend of Epiphany. Lent begins on Wednesday, and we find ourselves holding so much. How do we reflect on the past when we're still trying to make sense of it? And how do we look forward and reflect on what is to come when we have no idea what is going to happen? Maybe we do have insight into the future events, but being told something early on before it actually occurs may not make sense until after the fact. This is where we are today. In the verses leading up to the passage we just read, Jesus repeatedly asks the disciples, "Do you not understand?" Because they still struggle to grasp who Jesus is. Peter rightfully declared Jesus to be the Messiah, but when Jesus foretold his death and resurrection, Peter stereotyped Jesus, thinking he was just going to end up like everyone else who had claimed to be the Messiah, dead, but having died a meaningless death. Jesus then warns the crowd with his disciples about what it means to live for the sake of the gospel. Don't be ashamed of the gospel. Don't gain the world and lose part of yourself. Before we end up at our passage. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and John up this high mountain to be alone with them. Among the 12, Peter, James, and John are Jesus' most trusted companions, and Jesus has gone off with them before, and they will be with him in the Garden of Gethsemane when he is handed over to the Roman authorities. So Jesus brings them up to witness this very revealing moment. Jesus' clothes became so dazzling, so perfect, that the closest we can come to describing it in English is bleached white. In this moment, Jesus has revealed his divine self for the first time, and a loud voice from the clouds say, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Earlier, when Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, a voice from heaven said, "You are my son, the beloved. With you I am well pleased." Mark's gospel doesn't have a birth story. So in that moment of baptism, the Son of God is revealed in human form. The disciples had seen Jesus perform miracles, but they saw him doing all this in human form. But now they see Jesus as divine. And the voice from the clouds confirms that. Listen to him, the voice says, not because the disciples were disobeying Jesus, but they weren't really seeing Jesus. They weren't really hearing Jesus. Jesus even portrays this through the healing of a blind man. Jesus rubs saliva in the man's eyes and asks him, "Can you see anything?" The man says, "I can see people, but they look like trees walking." Jesus then has to do this again so he can see clearly before the man goes on his way. Peter, James, and John, they knew Jesus. Well, at least they thought they did. When Jesus was transfigured before their eyes, they were shocked and terrified. And with the appearance of Elijah and Moses alongside Jesus' transfiguration, Peter doesn't even know what to say other than, "Rabbi, I'm going to make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." It's as if he needs to do something to preoccupy his mind during a very difficult moment, because for the first time, Peter sees firsthand that the resurrection of the dead is possible. Mark's ending doesn't even include a resurrection story because we are reading about it right now, before it even happens. Now, the disciples and us too see Jesus' humanity and divinity together. We haven't gotten to the crucifixion yet. So Jesus will still be on earth in human form, teaching and healing, but the disciples can now start to prepare for the future. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them not to tell anyone about what they had seen until after the resurrection. This is still Jesus' life and his story to tell, not theirs. For many in the LGBTQ community, including myself, the transfiguration of Jesus reminds us of our own coming out stories. I was in an evangelical church. I was afraid my family wouldn't understand, and so I found friends who became my chosen family. And I found a church and a youth group that welcomed me. And now I am here, called by you to be one of your pastors. But this is my story. For you, your story is yours. For your children, their story is theirs. Jesus ordered his closest friends not to tell his story until Jesus said it was okay. It isn't okay to out someone. It's never okay. When the story feels right for them, when the time feels right for them, they will share. Peter's reaction is a testament to the fact that not every coming out story is all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes our loved ones will start to build dwellings to mask their discomfort. Oh, it's just a phase. I know my child, they'll grow out of it. We hold on to the things we thought we knew because the truth can be disorienting at times, which results in dead naming, misusing pronouns, and resorting to stereotypical gender roles. Jesus asks the question, "Who do you say that I am?" And then he reveals his transfigured self. And a voice says, "This is my Son, the Beloved." Coming out, identifying as transgender, as queer, is so personal that we hope and pray that the people we reveal ourselves to will have the same response as God. "This is my child, the beloved. Listen to them." God knows our name, sees us for who we really are, and knows who we can be. But do you see other people in the same way that God sees them? Do you listen to them? Peter, James, and John stayed by Jesus' side even after his divinity was revealed. Will you stay by their side? Our stories are powerful. Our stories are our own. And as people, we reveal parts of ourselves to those we trust, just like Jesus did. It is a testament to the beauty of friendships, chosen family, but it also reveals that we aren't meant to be alone in those revealing times, the difficult times. We need people in our lives who can imagine us to be more than what is assumed, who will let go of the old and embrace the new. In February, Black History Month, we remember the civil rights leaders of our past and the leaders of this age who are still speaking out for justice. We remember Rosa Parks, but we also remember the millions of people and allies who took part in the protest with her to make a one-year bus boycott possible. We remember Martin Luther King Jr., but we also remember Howard Thurman, Jimmy Lee Jackson, John Lewis, the Reverend Joseph E. Lowry, and the millions of people who stood side by side with them. Progressive Christians, progressive Jews, people from all walks of life who have taken part and still continue to take part in the transfiguration of this world. In Martin Luther King's 1968 speech, "I've been to the mountaintop," he is speaking to striking sanitation workers in Memphis, and he said, "It's all right to talk about long white robes over yonder and all of its symbolism, but ultimately people want some suits and dresses and shoes to wear down here. It's all right to talk about streets flowing with milk and honey, but God has commanded us to be concerned about the slums down here and his children who can't eat 3 square meals a day. It's all right to talk about the new Jerusalem, but one day God's preachers must talk about the New York, the new Atlanta, the new Philadelphia, the new Los Angeles, the new Memphis, Tennessee. This is what we have to do." MLK continued to say, "Be concerned about your brother. You may not be on strike, but either we go up together or we go down together." Stonewall could have just been a riot, but queer people and allies continued the movement. Rosa Parks sitting in the front of the bus could have been an isolated incident, but it turned into a movement. Jesus, the Son of God, could have come to earth to live among us, and that could have been the end of the story, but it turned into a movement. Moses, Elijah, and Jesus appeared together on that mountaintop because all of them transferred their power, their mission, their prophetic spirit to someone else to continue the work. And now the mantle has been passed to us to continue the work that other people have started, to continue the work that Jesus started. And now, as we prepare for the season of Lent, we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to hold on to that will help us to follow Jesus, to love and accept others as God accepts them? Yes, we do have to let go of the toxic stuff, the bad habits, the stereotypes, the preconceived notions, you name it. But as we wrestle with who Jesus is, who we are, and who other people are, a good place to start is to think about what we need to hold on to in the midst of thinking about what we need to let go of, so that we can be all that God has called us to be the friend and ally that someone desperately needs, to stay by someone's side through the difficult times. Amen.